Real estate is booming here in the region, and Kathy Helbig is with the Kathy Helbig Group. She's also a co-owner of Keller Williams Realty West, and each week she comes in and gives us a little insight into the real estate world. Good morning, Kathy Helbig.
Good morning.
Last week we talked about buyer misconceptions. This week we're going to talk about seller misconceptions.
Right, and there's a whole lot of them, so we only have time for a few. But a lot of times when I meet with people, they just have this preconceived idea how the process works. And the biggest one I hear all the time is, well, last time I tried to sell my house, my real estate agent never showed my house. But 85% of the time, it's another real estate agent that has the buyer for your house. So it's not going to be one of us that is with every single buyer that walks into your home. And
Right.
a lot of times people don't understand that. So they think that you're not working and you're not bringing them buyers if you're not the one physically walking them in the door. So that's a huge preconceived misconception. So really you're hiring us to be your marketing rep.
Right.
We're your marketing representative. Our deal is to get the most exposure to find the most prospective buyers and expose you to the other agents.
Not only to market the house, but then once the buyer comes in and you agree on a price, then to get me to the finish line.
Right. So the first step is hiring us for the our marketing ability and our marketing reach. So that's the number one biggest thing, because that's first. You got to get the buyer.
Right.
The next part is experience. So that interim phase is reading the market, knowing if you need to make adjustments. So that's the experience part that comes in. And then lastly is negotiation skills. So especially in a market like this, you've got to be savvy. You got to know what you're doing to be able to get the best contract for the seller. Another big misconception is closing cost. Everybody thinks I got to hand cash over to the buyer if I agree to have closing costs. And it's a closing cost credit. Credit means it's just moving numbers around. So we won't get into all the details of it because it's a lot to go. But it is not handing cash to the buyer at the closing table. And another big one is home sale contingencies. Although we're not seeing a whole lot of those right now, every seller thinks, because then I'm stuck in this home sale contingent contract.
Right.
And a seller is only stuck for as long as what your kick-out clause is, which is typically in this area 24 to 48 hours.
Which means what?
You can change your mind at any point in time once you've accepted that home sale contingent contract and give the other side notice that you've changed your mind, and they've got 24 hours to remove their contingency or their contract goes bye-bye.
So you can accept a contract with a contingent that they have to sell their house, but in 2 weeks, if I don't like that anymore, I can tell them, you got 24 hours to change this offer or I'm walking.
You got it.
Interesting. Back to closing costs for a second. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No.
So who pays the closing costs, quote unquote, normally?
Normally, it is a buyer's responsibility to pay closing costs. But here's why they write it into the contracts. Down payments cannot be financed in. Closing costs can. So when a buyer is asking a seller to provide closing cost credits, all they're doing is mortgaging out that for 30 years.
Gotcha.
So they're adding it on to the price. We're adding it into the negotiations. Your net is still your net. So if you sold a house for $175,000, but you gave them $3,000 in closing costs, maybe we'll sell it for $178,000 to them and then give them their $3,000 in closing costs. So
Gotcha.
you still get the same. The buyer gets their credit.
That's almost like a normal thing to do nowadays.
It's very normal.
Yeah.
That's why you need Kathy Helbig.
That's
Holy
right.
mackerel.
Ooh.
She's wheeling and dealing right here.
That's what she's
Dealing.
talking about.
18 years in the business. She has a whole team. Buyers agents, sellers agents, marketing experts, staging experts. KathyHelbiggroup.com. How's the app?
The app is great, and we spent the day filming new commercials yesterday, so that's really fun and exciting. So watch out for us.
We'll look for those on KSDK Channel 5 and throughout the St. Louis metropolitan area and right here on the Big 550 KTRS. KathyHelbiggroup.com. Have a good week.
Thank you. You too.
7:45, traffic, weather, sports, and then we're going to tell you who's going to win the Kentucky Derby. Actually, we're not going to tell you. Jay Randolph Sr. is going to tell you. Coming up in 15 minutes on